everyone. So briefly, I made the decision to change the name of the podcast to the Remember Who You Are podcast. I just feel it's a bit more of an accurate representation of kind of what we're discussing. So with that said, welcome to the Remember Who You Are podcast, where we discuss powerful and transformative plant medicine experiences. I'm your host, Ruger Aber. I run Mexisoul, a plant medicine retreat in Mexico. And I am here with my guest, Melissa. She is a global health professional with over a decade of experience across Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. She has a background in critical care nursing and a master's in global health. She's led international efforts in infection prevention, health system strengthening, and public health emergency response. Melissa is also a published writer and a passionate advocate for quality healthcare. When she's not tackling global health challenges, you'll likely find her mountain biking, practicing yoga, or scribbling notes for her next writing project. Melissa, is there anything I missed or that you want to discuss about yourself?
No, I think that is very complete. Thanks, Ruger.
I think it's one of the best introductions we've had.
I'm glad to hear that. It feels a bit professional. It feels like you're introducing me for some sort of like opening remarks or something.
This is so professional.
No, it's good. It's good.
So for this podcast, we're going to be talking about some of your powerful plant medicine experiences. But first, I kind of like to discuss of what things were like beforehand and whatever you'd like to share, but kind of what in general led you to do plant medicine in the first place.
Yeah, good question. And I think, well, my husband had done plant medicine before me and was really interested in resolving some of his insomnia and his anxiety and depression and some of the symptomology around that. To be honest, I hadn't really given much thought to it before. I mean, I'd been intrigued about it, and I think particularly just from maybe more of a social experience and being quite naive to, the power of it as actually being medicine. But I started to take it a bit more seriously, I think, after seeing him come back from the first experience that he had and saw the immediate change in him, the immediate and then kind of like the longer term change that stayed. It didn't go away. And so around the same time, I was starting to notice that I felt like I was picking up some bad habits. And kind of my outlook and kind of relationship, I think, with life was becoming a bit cynical. That was maybe 4 or 5 years into the COVID pandemic, which I think had really had a huge impact on me, like the isolation aspect. And anyways, I was also like at work, I was being kind of like put into these new positions of leadership, which was new for me. And I just felt really, really stuck. And now when I look back on it, I realize like I just was kind of clinging to some bad ego habits and not really able to move forward and just battling more and more with anxiety, particularly like social anxiety at work. And I just was really reactive and just kind of, I don't know, angry at baseline. And that was new for me. And I think some of the things that I had, some of the things being like outlets that I would have, like you mentioned mountain biking or like hiking or, being outdoors, some of the things that used to make me feel really good and take away those anxieties, it just wasn't doing that anymore.
So were you still practicing them, or you just weren't getting satisfaction or result from them?
I think a bit of both, because early in 2020 and 2021, I was living in an area that had pretty intense lockdowns, and so I wasn't able to do it during those years. And then I think when I tried to make it more regular again, I was like I couldn't take a deep breath or just like sigh it out anymore. I was just like, okay, well, I just did that. I guess I'll go to work or, just have a phone call. Like everything just felt very mechanical, and I wasn't really able to, like, I don't know, engage with myself. And I wasn't used to feeling this like new intensified level of cynicism.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like it, some of it, I think if I'm being honest with myself, like maybe not all of that was new. I think maybe, kind of some of those bad habits, and behaviors and moods were things that maybe I had struggled with for years, and so those aspects weren't necessarily new, but I could always engage in my outlet and like have the stress of those bad habits go away. Or like if, I'd get angry or frustrated at my relationship or something, I could go and take a walk before and come back in and feel better, but I wasn't able to do that anymore. And so, yeah, so it just became a bit alarming to me. And I feel like I've always like pretty easily made friends and like just, I don't know, been social, and I just wasn't interested in it anymore for some reason.
Do you contribute any of that kind of thinking or this, I guess, cynicism or just the lack of enjoyment? Do you think of it in any way as like resulting from the lockdowns and COVID, and you're kind of isolated, and then you get into this just cycle and this pattern and this repetition that is probably negative?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, yeah, I do, because I think I'm naturally more of an introvert, even though I do really like, love to be around my friends and have those social moments. And I think it really, at first, like I was really indulged with that alone time and that isolation. And then, yeah, I think that it just went too far. Like the
Mm-hmm.
pendulum it just shifted, and then I couldn't like quite figure out how to get myself back out of that. Um, and maybe, yeah, yeah. I'll leave it at that.
I just asked that because that also deeply resonates with me. I mean,
Oh yeah,
the
okay,
reason I did plant medicine in the first place was like I probably would have never done it if it wasn't for the pandemic, which was
really, okay,
definitely an unpleasant situation. But it also, like,
yeah,
I do have some amount of, I guess, it, gratitude because it took like things to kind of get that bad, I guess, with like the isolation and then just getting into these like negative repetitive thought patterns where I realized like I needed to do something.
yeah. That's it. And there was nothing to like break it up.
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, and yeah, that's exactly it. And there was nothing to like, I guess, hold myself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Like where if I had a bad day before, like, and I call a friend and they're like, let's go get a drink or let's go on a walk or something like that, then I had that accountability to get out of that bad habit or that bad thinking or that train of thought. Um, but I didn't have that anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think like my little like indicators inside, they just, I don't know, they didn't exist, or they just went away to say
Yeah.
like, go get some help or something, or
Yeah.
I don't know, go relieve yourself.
Yeah. So then you started coming out of the lockdown, but then that some of that behavior and those patterns and those thoughts were still carried with you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And yeah, it was like a new behavior pattern formed for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I started to notice is what what really stuck was anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is what really kind of over the long term was the red flag for me. And I've always struggled with anxiety in some form or another, but that just seemed to really have grown some deep roots. and I couldn't understand it. And um, I think what really enlightened me to that is like like I feel like it's always quite easy for me to just let things roll off my back, or like not get offended by somebody, or just um, yeah, just kind of be easygoing, or like, and I just wasn't that way anymore.
Yeah.
I was like so heightened to everything, and like so like almost paranoid, I think, which is no way to live.
Is there anything else you want to share about just beliefs or your outlook or things like that before we get into maybe these plant medicine experiences?
Yeah, because I think that, I mean, that's my belief system. I think is a huge way in which I've channeled the plant medicine, or like understood the plant medicine. And I'll start by saying, like, I've always been a really spiritual person, in and outside of my religion. I grew up Christian, and still hold Christian principles dear to my heart. I don't actively attend church, but I still believe in Christianity as a mechanism and a way for me to channel my spirituality in an effective way. I'll say that.
I love
But
that.
yeah, good. Along the way, I work in the international space, and I'm constantly with people and living in places that are different religions. Most recently, I was in the area that was predominantly Hindu and Buddhist. I went to grad school with mostly Islamic students, and that was, gosh, that was probably about started opening my eyes to kind of a new way of thinking, maybe about 12 to 13 years ago, when it comes
Mhm.
to religion, and just having some really profound conversations with, for example, a Muslim friend of mine. We were just talking about like life values, um, and like where we've arrived in life. Just this one night we were talking about this, and it was just this huge light bulb that went off my head. Like, wow, like he grew up in Saudi Arabia, Muslim, very conservative Muslim. And I grew up Christian, very like feminist woman in the US. And like, I feel like we've kind of arrived at a similar place in life.
Mhm.
And it made me realize that like, that was more about us as people and less about the religions that we were practicing. And it just really was so profound to me, because then I was just like, okay, like I don't discount other religions, and I recognize that like we're typically religious based upon the society and places that we grow up in and what we're influenced by. But really there's something much bigger that I feel like universally guides us. And it has, yeah, it's been, I think, just like a big, a big realization. And I have quite an open personality. So I'm always quite open to people, and people's thoughts and perspectives and beliefs and that sort of thing. Um, but I think that realization kind of really helped me to 13 years down the road, I think, be quite open to the medicine, and how it could work, outside of my Christian religion. And and it doesn't have to be apart from the religion either. It can be a tool to have you grow deeper towards your belief system, as well. But it also gives you perspective on maybe what belief patterns aren't serving you anymore. But yeah, and I've been involved in other types of like mental health therapies, different types of mind body experiences, and those kind of also helped prepare me, I think, for the plant medicine, and making me understand like the trauma and memories that can live in our body, and
Mhm.
how to release those. And so that was also a really good precursor for me to like kind of, yeah, I think dive in with the medicine, and be open to the medicine as well.
I appreciate you sharing that, especially like just some of the background on your faith. I think that's just important because this is something that is really can have the benefit for any walks of life. Like you said, just be able to
Totally.
deepen certain aspects of your faith, but at the same time realize what there are things that may no longer be serving you.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So your husband gets back from a retreat, and then now it's your turn.
Yeah.
All right. Was there anything else you want to share about what led you to the decision to do that? I mean, it's kind of, I think it's pretty well explained. You were just,
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of peer pressure from my husband for sure. Like, I don't know. I probably would have like, I don't know, waited or I don't. Yeah, I wasn't like. Yeah, I needed somebody to just push me into it. And that's what he did. And I wasn't, and that's the thing, like I wasn't nervous for it necessarily.
mm-hmm.
But I just didn't know about it, and I didn't know what it could actually do for me. And of course, like I started to become a believer after, witnessing him. But yeah, it was really peer pressure. And I think he basically just signed us up one day and he like, he's like, make sure you ask off of work.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into some of the experiences that you'd like to share. This is one of my favorite parts of the podcast, of just discussing kind of what the actual experience was like. So whatever you have in mind.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll start off by saying that I was super naive to the medicine and to the whole experience. Um, yeah. So I'll talk about the very first time I had done it, and then I have a few examples of subsequent experiences. But the first time was probably, as far as like wham bam 0 to 100 in half a second, that was my first time. And I was like, I still kind of feel this way, but like, whoa, what was that? Um, but yeah, it was probably, like it was so profound for me. And it took me on this journey right from the very first second that the medicine started working on this journey between the masculine and the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were in ceremony, the musicians start to play, and that's when I noticed the medicine starting to work, and I got pretty nauseous. Although I never vomited or purged in that way on the medicine. But anyways, that's when it started, and I just closed my eyes, and I was like, whoa. And I started like, it was really, there was a lot of drums that the musicians were starting, and the drums were just pulsating like through my entire body. And then I just started seeing these like flashes of demons, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And I got up and I was just like stunned. And I ran out of the room because I could feel that it was like the music that was pulsating in me were these faces of demons that were coming at me, which was terrifying. Because I'd never experienced any form of psychedelic before, and that to that degree. And so I ended up needing to just separate myself from the music because I recognized the music was making the visuals so intense for me. And I had no idea what was happening and what was going on. And so I stayed outside of the ceremony room just to create that physical space. And then the medicine just like took me really deep. I was seeing the whole universe, and I was like up above it, looking down, and just having these really intense universal experiences. And then it would jump. I kind of describe it as like I was in a Vincent van Gogh Starry Night
Mm-hmm.
painting where it was like I was just swirling from one insight to the next. Um, and and then it took me on insight that showed like the family trauma on my mom's side. Um, and it showed the pain that my mom lived in that was passed down from her mom and then her mom before her. And I knew that, like consciously I was aware of that. But in the moment, that's when the medicine started to soften me, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just so scared of the visuals that I had started out seeing. Um, but then I saw the medicine presented that scenario of my mother's lineage in a very, very soft way. And then it made me see them as my mother and my grandmother as children. And a child like me, like we were all just like little girls. And I just remember feeling like it just broke my heart. um, because I could see like the tangible pain, like kind of surrounding them as they grew up and didn't know how to heal from that pain that they had passed down to each other. And so that was something that like I had in the moment, but that resolved really quickly.
Yeah.
And then the medicine took me back to those demons. And I don't know if the music changed at this point from the ceremony or not. But then I started seeing my husband with a demon head. And I was like, ah, shit. Excuse my language. But I was like, oh no, what is going on? Um, and I can't remember everything exactly. Um, but it was almost like the medicine, it helped me, like looking back on it now I can see, and I don't think I had this amount of realization of it in the moment, but I do remember feeling my body finally starting to relax during the medicine. But I could see that that was showing me my struggle with masculine and the
Mm-hmm.
masculine energy. And that was completely wrapped up because in the music as well, because the music was so masculine. It was just these heavy, heavy drums that were being played. And um, and so I think it was just showing me all of my anxiety and all of my resentment towards masculine. Because then I started seeing, like other men in the room specifically with like the demon faces, and I'm like, I have no association with these people, like I have no reason to demonize them or anything like that. And so I could, yeah. I, and again, I can't remember like how much of this I realized later versus like how much I realized this in the middle of the ceremony. Um, but then the medicine kind of, it, it showed me that I didn't need, like, it showed me that that was my fear.
Mm-hmm.
that was, and that was, um, that wasn't real. Because I think my husband, for example, is like one of the most gentle souls that I know, but he's also extremely like, if you have feminine and masculine, he's like way over on the masculine side, like 100%.
Yeah.
and and somehow somewhere in that experience, that came away. I think the point of that was just to show that like that's not real. They're not demons, but you have this unresolved um, anger towards the masculine.
Yeah. Well, that's something that this is like our belief on that, because oftentimes
Mm.
people do see like demons or
Mm.
horrifying figures at first, and it's actually a little bit relatively common. But like our approach to the reason for that is because you have like this energy or this like kind of stuck sometimes trauma or emotions in your body or
Mm.
consciousness that's been stored for a very long time, and then when that is kind of being released or being acknowledged or being brought into awareness or consciousness, your own consciousness is trying to make sense of it in the same way. You
Mm.
know, it's almost like how you have dreams, but it's almost like that. So your own subconscious is trying to make sense of like these deep like subconscious things that are coming out or being
Okay.
brought into light.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that really resonates with me. That's kind of what it seemed. Because it did feel like a dream. Like it
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel like what I really believed about the person. And I think that, yeah, it was a bit scary to me in the moment because I was like, I remember very much thinking like, oh my God, is the medicine trying to tell me that my husband's like a serial killer or something like that? But yeah, but I mean, quickly, I think, yeah, what you said is what was really going on there. Yeah.
And then for your the mom side too, I do really like. It's like, you know, sometimes you can, as an adult, you can rationalize, you understand that there's like things that are passed down generationally, but to actually like feel it and have that
Mm,
experience of seeing that deeply, that is, I mean, I have had a bit of similar experiences with just my own like lineage of just being able to feel, and just I think it creates a sense of just empathy and compassion and understanding for
mm.
people that I don't know if it's, I don't know another way that is that effective besides plant medicine.
Yeah, totally. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
And how did that like once you had that empathy from seeing the lineage, did that did you carry that with you like beyond the medicine itself? Like did it change your relationships with those people?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't happen in the exact same way as yours, but I just had
Mm,
this, I kind of had this understanding that I think it was like a permanent shift of perspective of just like, because before you kind of, even though you maybe know that it's not accurate to do so, I think you still have maybe, or I still had some frustration or resentment,
mm,
or like they did that wrong, or this was a, like, they did this bad. Like I always loved my
yeah.
parents. Like I know my, I'm not gonna, like I always had love for my parents. I knew that they kind of did their best, but to actually kind of get that understanding of like, oh, like this came from that, and being able to kind of even feel that, and sometimes even feel maybe what they felt at the time, like I think that for me was like a permanent shift. It's just
Yeah.
having more understanding of like, of not just even them, but like the whole of humanity. It's just like, okay, for the most part we're just trying to do our best, and we're everything that kind of happens is really just based off their own prior experiences and their own things. And like if you look at it
Yeah.
from like a really what's the word, if you zoom out, you can kind of
Mm,
see that from like a huge overall perspective. It's just like, this is like, okay, this is like humanity.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Because I also, not in this first experience with the medicine, but then later, I had this vision where I could see myself being born. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was in the delivery room and I could see like my mom and my dad seeing me for the very first time and just like could feel the enormous amount of love and kind of like awe that they had for me. And it was just, I'd never, yeah, it completely took, if I had any remaining baggage from the experience previously, like that completely took it all away because it just was like, wow, they were just a couple of like, I mean, they weren't, well, in their early 20s at that point, mid 20s maybe, and like they had no idea what was happening, and I've never like thought of them in that way
Yeah.
before. But they were just like new parents. Again, I'm the youngest of three, and they were just like I would have been. And I just remember, I think I like woke up from that actually like sobbing at just
Mm-hmm.
like the amount of compassion I felt for them. And yeah, it was Yeah, forever changed. Like you said, for you, it's forever changed.
Beautiful.
Yeah. 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 So I guess like kind of on the same line of things. During that first experience I had, um, it really it really showed me, like, it was just really all about like me sorting out the masculine and the feminine inside of me. It also took me on a more specific journey with my dad, um, and like me as like an infant, well, even before that, like as a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And and it was like, you chose your dad, like you chose to be in in this family, because like my dad and I are like peas and carrots, you know, like he's just such a soft, gentle, kind, like wears his heart on his sleeve kind of guy. And I just had built so much resentment towards him over the years. Um, and I don't know where the masculine fits in there, because I mean he's definitely a masculine guy, but he's also very soft. He's like not an alpha male at all, but he is quite masculine. And you know, of course, there's childhood traumas there that I very consciously remember, um, but it just showed me like, you know, he's just trying to figure out life as well, and he messed up. But you chose him at the end of the day, and you chose him because you knew that he's who you needed to be with on this earth.
Mm.
Um, and and you know, like I don't know how much I I say that not to go into like this that spirit side too much. I don't know if it's like actually true or if it's just symbolic,
Mm-hmm.
and it's presented in a way that I can understand it. I don't really concern myself with that as much. I'm just happy and grateful for the insight. I don't put too much esteem on, you know, my spirit being able to have chosen.
Yeah.
um, and I know some people do, and I think that's fine, that's okay. But I think for me, the point of it is just to very much live in the here and now, and that's what I wanted to take from that. And I will tell you, like after that first experience, my I went from like feeling like I was an apathetic teenager still with my dad, well into my 40s, to like just makes me want to even tear up when I think about it. But just like having nothing but unconditional love for him, and just like seeing how much, you know, seeing how much love is there and how much love was always there, but I just was carrying around this heavy pot of resentment specifically towards him for reasons I'm probably conscious and not conscious of. But that was when I woke up from the medicine. That was like something that was immediate. Like I didn't have to integrate that. I didn't have to like think about it. It was there and it was done. And I was like, I think maybe not right away I called my dad, but the next time I called my dad, maybe a few days later, I was just like, I love you so much.
Yeah.
And he's like, who are you? And I was like, yeah, I know. Um, and so that was, yeah, that was just, I have no words for that. And it was like, if that's the only thing I ever left with from the medicine, like that was enough.
Yeah.
Like that was enough for me. Um, it's since given me so much more. But yeah, I'll, I'll always be so incredibly grateful to Mexisoul for that first experience, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think the other thing in that first experience too was it started to lay some of the groundwork for me, um, on my feminine side,
Mm-hmm.
which has been a much longer journey and has much like deeper layers that I've had to work through and struggle through. But the medicine showed me like ayahuasca was, her voice was there, which she later told me was me. She later, in later ceremony, she said, I'm just you telling you what you already know. But that's a little diversion. But I've kind of, I think in my life, and because I was like, I think innately always so close to my dad, and I was the youngest of three daughters, I always grew up as a tomboy. And I just wanted to do everything my dad wanted to do. And I don't know if maybe that's where some of my resentment towards the masculine came from, because I wasn't I felt like my dad wanted me to be his little boy, and I wanted to be his boy. I wanted to do all the boy things with him, but yet I was female. And I didn't have a lot of, I've realized this later, I don't know that I always had a lot of encouragement in my family to be feminine. The influence always came from my dad, I would say. And ayahuasca told me, she kind of again took me to a very young age, and she was like, you are 100% feminine. Your spirit is feminine. It couldn't be any more feminine. And she started to take me on that. And I was like, okay. I didn't really understand in the moment. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where she was taking me with that. But it was taking me somewhere pretty deep that I don't think I was really ready to go into at that moment in time. And so I asked her to stop. And I was just like, I've had enough. Because my first experience, I think I took 1 cup of the ayahuasca at whatever time we take it, 9 p.m. And I think it was 3 a.m. at that point. And I was still going really strong on it.
Yeah.
And I was exhausted. And I think she kept trying to push me to look deeper. And I remember feeling I was watching her shake her head, you've exhausted me as well. And literally in that moment I woke up. But it left her telling me you're so feminine left this huge, it just stayed with me. It left this huge impression. And I just was like, okay, I can accept that. Not really understanding that the next few experiences that I would have with the medicine would take me much deeper into my inability to accept myself as feminine. The masculine cleared up 100%. I was done with that. I didn't have to go through that anymore. And I remember towards the end of the week, because most of the musicians are men, I just was I love music. I love drums. I've always loved to dance. But it was just this special appreciation for just hearing their voices and hearing them singing, and just oh man, the masculine has such a place in this world. It's so powerful. And it's, I think maybe I've tried to push my ways into being masculine that I'm never going to be. And anyways, maybe that was where some of my resentment came from. But at the end of the week, I was just celebrating that. But the best thing was that my husband was with me during that week's time as well. And I just completely softened towards him.
He wasn't a demon anymore.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't a demon, and that felt also like a huge victory. I mean, we all we get along. We have a lot of fun together. But if we have a disagreement or something that needs to be talked out or something, I immediately felt much softer to him. I didn't feel like I was being oppressed or I don't know the right words for it, but just
feminine?
I didn't. Yeah, I guess. I didn't feel like I had to prove myself to him, or I had to fight or something like that. I just could appreciate him for being living in a way that I can't, because I'm not that. Which maybe could be unpacked farther, but again, once you taste this the sweetness of like letting something go. It's just like, I don't even care. I don't even care what it meant. It's just gone. It feels amazing. And so, yeah, that was my first go at taking ayahuasca. That was like, yeah, that was huge for me.
Yeah.
It was a really huge experience.
It sounds pretty powerful. I mean, sometimes those first ones like that are difficult, but it
Mm-hmm.
is like cracks you open.
Yeah, and I know like people say often, you know, like my husband, I know it wasn't until he had taken the Bufo like that he had an effect, and so I know like some people can take a couple doses of ayahuasca and they never feel anything, and yeah, I mean, there's reasons for that,
Mm-hmm.
but for some reason I just went right into it right away, and I'm very very thankful for that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to keep going with the experiences, or
Yeah, I can share.
like, all right, well,
Yeah.
let's talk about this. Let's talk about the second one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the second one was much different for me. Um, and it was much I felt like I was much more on the surface with the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whereas it
What do you
didn't
mean?
take me
What do
I
you mean
didn't
by that?
have I had some visuals, but not a ton. It was much more like the visuals were much more about what was immediately in front of me. Um, and like I think like I mean with to be honest with the first experience, I mean I couldn't move, like I was like paralyzed.
Yeah.
But with the second experience and the third experience, I was able to get up and walk around, and I was just a bit more aware of the present moment, and I had a better track of like time and what was happening, whereas the first one it was just like I was on another planet. Um, and that was a little bit that was what I wanted. That was what I asked for. I wanted to just not have such an intense time on the medicine. And I think maybe most of that, not that I had some like intelligence about why I was asking for that, but just I think that's just kind of how I work. I like to like kind of ease into things and try to understand things a little bit more. I'm always more like a see one, do one kind of person. And so I just needed to like go a little bit calmer for myself. Um, and but it was like really powerful. And I also realized like, actually, it wasn't until the very end on the Bufo that I realized why I didn't want to go as deep. And that's something that in my integration more recently and like my ongoing meditation I have here back home, I realized like I was too scared to look any more deep inside of me. And because I was just scared about what was there. Um, but I went into that second ceremony like really wanting to work on my anxiety, what I had mentioned before, and just like recognizing my levels of anxiety were just not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so actually like the first ceremony on this psilocybin, I had really intense nausea, like super intense. Um, and it was really unpleasant. um, but I realized that like that nausea, it seemed directly related to the anxiety that I was also feeling. And I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg in that situation, but I kind of realized like as soon as my thought pattern was like getting out of control and becoming really anxious, that's when the nausea would come on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had some really, again, like the medicine, I didn't have my time with the medicine wasn't that long, but it did again, just like take me a bit deeper into me needing to like trudge through why I can't accept my feminine in me. And it took me again to like the female lineage on my side, and some of, as much as I love my sisters and I love my family, just some of that childhood stuff that
Yeah.
was really, really burdensome and really made me feel like I'm never going to be like, I'm never going to fit the mold of what they think a woman is. And so I went through some of that. Anyways, I remember like the next couple of days just sitting there with like huge amounts of anxiety, and like frustration and judgment towards like everybody and everything. And I was just like, well, this isn't what I signed up for. Like, I didn't want to intensify it. But then I think it was like after the Satori ceremony, like I didn't feel anything on the Satori. And then as we were sharing during the ceremony, this intense anger, I just became so angry. And I just started like sobbing uncontrollably. I guess that's my purge or something, like just sobbing. And I just like had never admitted to myself like how much anger I had, and had never dealt with. And that was like the root of maybe not all of my anxiety, but maybe this more intense anxiety that I was feeling was just like this unresolved anger that had just been sitting there and like growing bigger and bigger and bigger. I remember again, like it was following one of the medicines, and it was like the debriefing ceremony after the medicine. And I don't think I'd felt that much on the medicine. Like I'd felt enough, but to like, experience it, but it wasn't super deep. And then just this intense feeling again came over me with like, I'm not good enough as a woman. Like I have so much pain around this and I can't understand why. And then it just hit me, like my husband and I have been trying to get pregnant for a long time, and we're just faced with the fact that it's probably not going to happen to us. And it was just this, and I have always just, I don't know, I've never let myself go there. And I've never let myself like think about this, and just this like intense catharsis. It just hit me like, again, I just don't feel like being able to have a child is the most feminine, creative, beautiful thing a woman gets to do. And I don't get to do that. And that makes me feel horrible. Like, what is my place in this world? And so I let myself feel that. And to be honest, like, again, that was just kind of like, that was just, I think, the medicine just showing me like the tip of the iceberg on what I needed to work on. And it really hasn't been until I came home and like continued the meditations and continued, like, I like to meditate with the plant music on, because it really helps me to like focus my brain. And it has taken me, like, the integration part of my second experience with the medicine has been so intense and so profound. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm even actually back in the ceremony, which has been just like really beautiful. But I've come to these I remember like during one ceremony, I was like, one meditation with myself, I was feeling this like intense heaviness and this intense sadness and like darkness in me. And I was like, what is this? And at the very end, like as soon as the song finished playing, it was like, this is not about like pain that you've had. This is about your ego. This is about like you just not having, or letting your ego get out of control. Like this is you. And so anyways, it was, I've never realized how like influential my ego is over me. I mean, you always think of ego as being like the egotistical CEO or something like that, that's narcissistic or whatever. But this was like, no, your ego is the source of your pain. And
Yeah.
your ego is like, it's like, as admirable as it is to be a mother, it's your ego that is like the source of that pain of not being able to have a child, because you want approval from society that you can have a kid and you can have a family. And like, it just took me like to these places where I was like, holy guacamole. Like, I was not expecting, like, I don't know. It showed me how much I try to victimize myself and like, oh, I'm not getting this, or this isn't working out. And it's like, no, that's not you're not a victim. Like, that's just your ego, like having a completely skewed perspective on like what's important. And so since and I just had this huge conviction. As soon as I realized this, I just prayed. Like, I prayed my Christian prayers and the things that I know how to do in order to like cope with that. And it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And it's just like, now I can see, I don't fully understand what ego is. It's something I'm learning about. It can be bad, it can be good. I don't really know. But like, again, like, I think just after having that depth of insight, that my pain is actually from my ego, that was huge.
Well, what you said, realizing the ego is the source of your pain, I mean, that's huge. That's like, because then you can be aware of like what's your ego, what's not, what are the actual parts of you, what is just a
Mm,
program playing on repeat that you've kind of
exactly.
accumulated from everything, from social media,
Mm-hmm.
social conditioning, parents, religion,
Exactly.
society, everything.
Yeah. 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 That's 100%. And it's like I think one of the most powerful things about plant medicine is that it allows you to take your emotion away from the experience or the event or the memory. And so you're like able to see, I was able to see my dad as like a lovely person apart from any type of like traumatic emotion I associated with him. And that was beautiful. And now, like, as you just say, I feel like now that I've had this realization about my ego, like, as some of that anxiety or frustrations or whatever I'd been trying to get past, like, now when that arises, as you say, I can differentiate. Like, I can't keep it from coming. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
that far along in my journey, but like, I can see that, I can feel the difference now, which has been, it's been really amazing. And I remember, just as a side note, I remember in the very last Bufo ceremony that I was with Humberto in, he was being super encouraging to me, and I just am eternally grateful to him. Um, and he was just like, just let yourself go there, let yourself go there, let yourself go there. I was like, I don't want to see it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go there. Like, I don't want to see what's inside. And I've since reflected on that after like having this new revelation about my ego. I'm like, I think it's because my ego. Like, I was just too scared of it. And I think the other thing that is really, I want to say is like, during the ceremony, I can feel a lot of like, I've been open to feeling love for like the first time probably ever, like actually feeling other people's love for me. But since I've had this insight about the ego, I'm actually for the very first time starting to feel love for myself.
Mm.
And that, like, gosh, that's amazing. That's so amazing. I feel like I can like step into being more who I'm supposed to be instead of like, what we were talking about before with like religion and beliefs and like letting go of certain beliefs and maybe deepening other beliefs. It's like, yeah, now I see, like, I think my femininity, because I never felt like I fit the mold of like the perfect woman who has kids and has a family and, all of those things that society deems are really important and are really important. I don't want to diminish and say that they're not, but like, I don't hate myself for not being on that same path. And I realized that that was a belief. I was just believing that about myself, and I hated myself for that. And now I can accept like, well, that's maybe not my journey. And I can love myself for that and like be in this world and be who I'm supposed to be regardless.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Something that just came to mind to me too is like, and I can't remember where I read this, if it was maybe a David Hawkins book, but there's the analogy or the analogy or comparison. It's the comparison of ego and with even Christ, and I think it's
Mm.
interesting because we're speaking about this. So the very last moments in Christianity when he's on the cross, he says, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" And like that in that moment is ego.
Mm.
And then at the very, very, very end, he says, "It is finished."
Wow.
And then that's the release of ego.
That's great. Can you say, because I'm like, any information you have on this whole ego thing? Like, so,
Well, I can't remember the source, and I might be able to find that for you
okay.
later. But it may have been
Yeah.
David Hawkins' book of just
David
like
Hawkings. Okay.
basically saying that like the ego is something that like it's going to be a part of you, and
Mm.
but they gave the representation of Christ because it's on the cross, the ultimate act of like
Yeah.
surrender, who's approaching that, the ultimate act of basically
I love that.
responsibility for everything. It's still towards the very end, it's just like, Father, why have you forsaken me? And that's the ego. And then at the very end it says, it is finished. That's like the
Mm.
surrender of the self for
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I like that.
I'll find the source and I'll let you know.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'm like trying to get a hold of all things ego, like people's perspectives on ego, because I don't know. It's just, yeah, but it's like it is in essence who we are as individual
Mm-hmm.
people, I suppose. But
Well, but I definitely believe it's a part of yourself that is always going to be a part of yourself.
mm,
I mean, even if you look at the example for Christ, part of yourself. But then
yeah.
at the same time, um, I think it's a part of yourself that's trying to protect yourself, because you kept, even you when you're telling this, you kept saying, "I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there." But it's also like,
Mm,
what is this part that you've pushed down and not allowed yourself to be? I mean, I know it's difficult because that part is
mm,
scary. There's so much to like unpack and feel, and and I mean, for lack of a better word, deal with. But really, it's just
mm,
there's something that is like protecting that part, and that I mean, I can relate to some of that, with just
mm.
the feelings associated with like the some of the parts of yourself that you haven't accepted is like very, very scary.
Yeah. Gosh, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
But congrats to you for being brave enough to go there and like deal, because I mean, yeah, sometimes it's like sometimes people don't go there, and I think sometimes people live their
Mm,
whole lives without going there.
yeah. Yeah. I thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I don't, I don't know. I don't know why I'm okay with it. I think maybe some of it is just like, I mean, just to be honest, and I'm happy for you to, anything I say, you can post on your podcast. But like the pain of infertility is like a pain that I've like, it's by far probably some of the like most grief I've ever experienced in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think there's just been some days where I'm like, I've, if I don't get on the other side of this, like there is no other side, like there's nothing left. And so it almost just feels like a matter of think of life and death to like find some sort of support or find some sort of clarity on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm like, I'm so grateful. Like, I'm so grateful to Humberto. Like during when I was like going through this and my grief was becoming very, very clear and I couldn't hide it anymore. Like he just like kept coming back to me and saying like, you're enough. You're enough. you're enough. Just as you are, you're enough. And he's like, do you think I'm not enough because I don't have children? Of course I said no. And he's like, see? And he just kept coming back to me and just offering me this like brotherly love. And gosh, it gave me hope, I think. um, it gave me some sort of hope that maybe there is something on the other side. And it's not to say that I'm not still triggered, but like, I think, I think some of that pain has been lifted, and in recognition that, yeah, it was the ego. But yeah, anyways, I was so grateful to Humberto.
Well,
Because
I'm really grateful for you just sharing that too, because I mean I was in the same room when that was happening, and
okay.
I remember just the catharsis that was just flowing through you, and I think it is an inspiration just to other people who are holding on to maybe not the exact same thing, but just holding on to some of those things,
Yeah.
and just like it's okay, just like let it go, and but to let it go, you have to feel it. The only way is through it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thanks for saying that, Ruger. Because it's like you're so vulnerable in these moments, and you're just like I was so deep that I couldn't even begin to care what other people thought of me in that moment. But no, I appreciate you saying that. Like, yeah, maybe it can be helpful for other people, um, because and I remember like after that, during the last ceremony, Liberty was like super encouraging because she's like, you've just, you've got to scream out your anger. Like, just let it out, let it out, let it out. And she was, the 2 weeks that I was there, like that was kind of her thing to me. And again, like super grateful to have an encouragement to do that because I don't normally just let it out. And, gosh, during that last ceremony, uh, some of the visions that I was getting, it I haven't even told my husband this, but I was just envisioning myself growing a bit older, and I was thinking like, oh, I need to eat more protein. I need to make sure I exercise more. Like I was almost just like I was like setting this new like daily activity thing that I should do when I'm getting older. And I should preface this by saying, like during all of the ceremonies, I've just kind of had this resounding question for the medicine in the back of my head of like, can you show me if I'm going to have a baby or if I'm not? Like, can you show me if I'm going to have a baby or not? Anyways, I think I'd kind of let that go after the catharsis. But like, as I was having this vision of myself growing older, she was showing me that like my reproductive system was also growing older, and like I need to just let go. And I think Jamie was in the room. Yeah, she was. I woke up from that and it was just like, oh gosh, that was like the last purge that I needed to do and to see. And thank God Jamie was there because she's just an incredible energy and feminine energy that I needed. But I just remember just like screaming at the top of my lungs about how angry I was over it. And yeah, feels embarrassing a bit to say that out loud, but I just, and the music, like, Humberto's kind of the conductor in the room. So like guiding the music, and he just like kept like making the music go to a crescendo. And I just was like at my most intense. And it was just like, I just finally let it all out. I just like completely vulnerable, just let it out. And I think that's just what needed to happen and to move on. Yeah. But it was like, I couldn't have done that on my own for sure. No way.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
really.
I really appreciate you sharing all that, and I appreciate you also just taking taking the just the chance to do this, and then also just sharing some of these things, because I really do believe that I mean it's helpful for me, it's helpful for people that are makes people feel not alone, and it gives people hope.
I mean, I know this is about medicine experience, but seriously, just Mexisoul and like everybody at Mexisoul, it's just been like such a godsend. Like, I'm just so thankful. And I know you probably hear that a lot. At least I hope you do, because you deserve to hear it a lot. But yeah, it's been beautiful. And
Yeah.
I think like, yeah. And I mean, I'm on this transition in life from like, not just like from one year to the next, but like a paradigm shift for me, and like what my priorities are and how I'm living, and just to like, I don't know, just have been able to seek a bit of refuge at Mexisoul has just been like, I don't know, just a godsend. Like, just so grateful.
That's amazing. Well,
So I
let's
think,
do the like there's the so the final part of the podcast is kind of speaking about, what's shifted and what's changed. I think though we covered that pretty much in detail from all of
yeah.
this. But I don't know, I guess, is there anything else that you can just, I mean, what it like maybe just let's just have a summary of like the things that you've kind of decided to carry forward
Mm.
from this experience, or from these experiences.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I'll say is I didn't really understand what consciousness was.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think with like the discovery of the ego, I now am getting a bit closer to understanding what consciousness is. And so I think the way I look at that question is more about like what I'm not willing, am I saying that right? What I'm not willing to live without. And the big overarching things is love from other people, love for myself, receiving love from other people, not being scared to love other people. And I think all of that will allow me to be me. I think the mechanisms to try to like make sure I can achieve that goal, because we're humans and we're going to slip. It's not like since I've had these moments like I've arrived and I'm never going to struggle again. Like, I'm very aware of that. I've really I've never been a good meditator, but I think from the medicine, and then I think from being around people who are really experts in this space, like I've learned how to meditate, and I've learned like really intentional prayer. So that's something that I'll definitely carry forward with me in order to try to make love last.
Mm-hmm.
I will do plant medicine again. I've actually been thinking like, I think I'll be ready to, maybe dive a bit deeper into who I am as a person. So like, I took lesser doses the last couple ceremonies, but I think I'd be ready to take like deeper doses and do a little bit more self-exploration. And then being around like-minded people. I think what the ceremony, like we always say, like, ceremony is so profound and so powerful, as opposed to like taking the medicine by yourself. And I think the ceremony is, but I think having the ability to talk things through and to process and to have relationship with people who have gone through it or have understanding of it is also like an extremely important thing for me to try to carry forward with.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. And so being intentional, I think, with relationships where you can be in a safe space to talk about this kind of thing is definitely something I'll take forward, because I mean, integration, that I was talking to this Ben, like the ceremonies are so inspiring and so fun and so gosh, I want to go back and experience that again. They're so powerful. But as we all know, like the real work and actually being able to live in society and take forward is the ongoing integration. And I think like making sure you have a few tools in your toolkit to like carry that forward is necessary. It's like a requirement.
Yeah, I've definitely realized that through doing this from the beginning to
Mm,
now.
mm.
So the last thing I'd like to ask you, and this is something that I frequently ask guests, is if there is someone who is considering this, what would you tell them to do?
I would say first and foremost, I would say I've had the most amazing, life changing, beautiful experience from it. But it's intense, and you really need to consider if you're ready for it. But I would also say, like, I don't know if anybody's ever actually ready for plant medicine.
Mm-hmm.
you don't you don't really know what it is until you've done it. There's really no way of knowing until you experience it because everybody's journey is so individual. But practically speaking, I would say like watch YouTube videos, like um, watch testimonials that are good, that have good reflections on it, and potentially bad reflections on it. I would also say like consider the space in which you would have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think, yeah, finding a supportive environment that like resonates with you, because you don't know what kind of support you're going to need necessarily. Maybe maybe you go off and like just want to do it completely individual, and that's fine. But maybe not. Be open to what the possibilities are. I remember Humberto always saying like, "There's no wrong dose of the medicine. There's no wrong experience." And so, like for some people, you don't feel anything right away, and that's an okay thing too. But just prepare yourself that there's a range of insights or a range of experience that you could have with it, and to not judge that, and just to take it as it comes.
Yeah. I usually tell people I think the two types of people that are not ready for it are the people that know they're not ready for it, and then the people that think it's going to be, oh, no problem, this is going to be easy. I have no
Yeah.
reservations or fears at all.
Because then you're in for a world of shock. Yeah, and like I think the other thing too is like as I think plant medicine is becoming more of a dinner time conversation for people, and it's becoming more of like a social media thing. Like, it is not a party drug. Like, do not expect to go in and like have a party, because it will take you on a completely different a direction. Like, it needs to be
Yeah.
respected, it needs to be honored, and it needs to be intentional, and it otherwise, like, who knows.
Yeah.
Who knows what the outcome will be.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate this so much. Appreciate the
Yeah.
honesty and the vulnerability and the willingness to do this. And it really does give me like a reason for why I'm doing this, or a reminder of the reason why I'm doing this.
That's amazing. Thank you, Ruger. I'm really honored to be a part.
Thank you.